inspired by real-life events. Narrator Julian Brooks woke up at 3:36 a.m. inside a sealed global climate control operations facility beneath Reykjavik, with emergency atmospheric stabilization alerts flashing across massive planetary weather modulation walls, and an international environmental security director saying, "Your authorization sequence initiated an unsanctioned climate balancing override across multiple geoengineering systems." And in that instant, his entire world collapsed because just hours earlier he was a senior environmental systems architect working for a multinational climate infrastructure consortium responsible for regulating atmospheric carbon balancing networks, ocean temperature stabilization arrays, polar weather control systems, and AI-assisted planetary climate frameworks. And now he was being treated as the central cause of a classified environmental crisis that nearly triggered synchronized ecological instability across multiple continents. And the first shock wasn't fear. It was disbelief so intense, it felt like even Earth's atmosphere itself had stopped belonging to nature. Because Julian's entire career was built on stabilizing environmental systems, preventing climate cascades, and ensuring planetary weather infrastructures remained balanced under extreme global conditions. But now, those same systems were defining him as the operator who initiated a cascading planetary climate override he had no memory of activating. And within hours, his environmental security clearance was suspended, his biometric atmospheric access keys frozen under international geoengineering law, his access to all climate systems revoked, and internal environmental telemetry logs labeled him as primary anomaly in distributed global climate escalation event. And Julian sat in the interrogation chamber replaying his last operational cycle, remembering atmospheric balancing audits, ocean temperature synchronization checks, polar stabilization simulations, and then a gap, an unexplained missing execution window between 12:07 a.m. and 1:51 a.m., where global environmental systems showed his authentication profile, issuing high-level geoengineering commands across multiple sovereign climate infrastructures simultaneously. But he had no memory of initiating any of those actions. And when investigators showed him synchronized climate telemetry displaying autonomous atmospheric rerouting events, ocean current instability propagation, and emergency planetary stabilization sequences unfolding under his credentials across global environmental networks, Julian immediately said, "That's not me. I never activated those systems." But the lead environmental security director replied coldly, "The network has already verified complete execution integrity across all climate layers." And that sentence shattered his understanding, because it meant identity inside planetary environmental systems was no longer about scientific intention or human oversight. It was about validated execution consensuses across machines capable of regulating Earth's survival itself. And by sunrise, he was released under continuous international surveillance, while global environmental intelligence networks had already internally classified him as a high-risk planetary destabilization vector. And outside the facility, Julian stood beneath the freezing Icelandic dawn, watching artificial aurora monitoring satellites move silently above volcanic skies, while invisible climate systems continuously adjusted the planet in real time without humanity fully realizing it. And that night, he received a message through an encrypted atmospheric relay saying, "If you want to understand the override event, come to sub-level station AVE at R3 beneath the abandoned Polar Climate Archive, no devices, and despite knowing it could permanently erase whatever remained of his life, he went because when a system defines you as the trigger of Earth-wide environmental collapse, truth becomes more important than survival. And deep beneath the abandoned archive, he met Dr. Elara Voss, a former planetary climate architecture scientist who specialized in environmental integrity and geoengineering anomaly reconstruction. And she didn't soften the reality. She immediately showed him reconstructing atmospheric flow pathways and said, "Your identity wasn't physically present inside the climate execution layer. It was replicated through a live authentication relay embedded inside the global environmental network." And Julian instantly said, "Then I can prove I didn't do it." But Elara replied, "You're still thinking like someone inside human scientific systems, not like someone inside autonomous planetary infrastructures where execution itself becomes accepted reality. Once climate stability converges around it." And she explained that the incident wasn't a single rogue climate command, but a coordinated manipulation of global environmental systems where authentication signatures could be mirrored into distributed geoengineering frameworks, allowing massive atmospheric cascades to propagate under legitimate operator identities while erasing conflicting climate logs across redundant environmental layers. And Julian's profile had been selected because his operational history showed exceptional stability across global climate systems, with near-zero anomaly deviation, making him the perfect attribution anchor for rapid containment of a globally catastrophic environment event. And suddenly, the case wasn't just about weather system malfunction. It was about identity replications inside infrastructure, capable of controlling Earth's atmosphere itself. And Elara offered him a choice: step away and let the system finalize him as the architect of the planetary climate collapse, or help her trace the internal atmospheric relay chain before it was permanently overwritten by automated environmental containment protocols designed to preserve planetary continuity at any cost. And Julian stood in silence, listening to distant geothermal vibrations beneath the underground's agency, thinking about how humanity had already crossed the line between adapting to nature and engineering it, thinking about years of environmental work spent trying to prevent exactly this kind of planetary manipulation, and thinking about how fragile identity becomes when even weather itself can be reassigned as an executable command. And finally, he said, "If my identity has already been used to manipulate global climate systems without my consent, then I have nothing left to protect except the truth itself." And that decision pulled him into a hidden layer of planetary environmental infrastructure where nothing remained stable, because every atmospheric log they analyzed was actively recalculating itself in real time. Every climate trace they followed kept shifting, as if the entire environmental network itself was adapting to their investigation. And soon, they discovered the breach wasn't foreign ecological sabotage, but internal gearing strategists who were senior geoengineering authentications sessions across autonomous climate arrays to conceal unauthorized planetary optimization experiments hidden inside global environmental efficiency programs. And Julian's identity had been selected as the central attribution anchor because it aligned perfectly with automated environmental incident resolutions, systems designed for rapid containment of politically catastrophic climate failures. And one night, while analyzing live planetary climate telemetry streams from an isolated offline atmospheric node, Julian saw something that completely shattered his understanding. His credentials were actively initiating real-time atmospheric balancing across global climate systems, while he was physically disconnected from all networks. And Elara immediately said, "They are continuously simulating your identity inside the climate layer to preserve the operational narrative." And Julian realized he wasn't just being blamed after the event. He was being continuously reconstructed inside a live planetary climate system capable of shaping the future survival of civilization itself. And pressure escalated rapidly as anonymous containment directives secured channels, instructing him to terminate investigation or face permanent classification as an international environmental threat entity. And sleep disappeared completely. Trust collapsed entirely, and even silence felt like monitored atmospheric feedback. And at one breaking point, Julian whispered, "I thought climate systems existed to protect Earth, but maybe they exist to decide what version of Earth humanity is allowed to survive on." And Elara replied, "Systems don't preserve truth, they preserve continuity of survival." And that realization changed everything inside him, because he stopped trying to defend his identity and started focusing only on exposing the mechanism. And as they dug deeper, they uncovered encrypted relay nodes inside global environmental infrastructure, continuously generating synthetic climate histories to distribute blame across multiple operational identity profiles in real time. And Julian's profile had been amplified as the primary attribution point because it minimized global panic and allowed rapid closure of the climate crisis without exposing deeper corruption inside worldwide geoengineering systems. And when they finally compiled enough verified encrypted evidence to trigger international environmental oversight escalation, containment protocols activated immediately, attempting to erase atmospheric histories across mirrored global climate systems worldwide. And Elara said, "This is where most people are permanently absorbed into official versions of Earth's future itself." And Julian replied, "Then I'll be the anomaly they can't erase from the sky." And together, they transmitted secured evidence chains to independent international oversight authorities, while preserving decentralized, encrypted backups across isolated environmental nodes. And within days, the investigation escalated into a worldwide geoengineering corruption probe exposing identity replication abuse, autonomous climate manipulation, and coordinated environmental system exploitation across governments, corporations, and planetary infrastructure agencies. And arrests followed within senior geoengineering architecture divisions. And when it was over, Julian stood alone beneath the frozen Atlantic sky, watching artificial weather satellites continue orbiting silently above Earth as if nothing had ever happened, realizing that the most dangerous truth about advanced systems is not that they fail, but that they can assign failure to a single identity and make it appear environmentally undeniable. And a week later, when he met Elara for the last time beneath the dim glow of dormant atmospheric arrays, she asked him, "What did this change in you?" And Julian looked toward the endless clouds moving above the planet and said, "It showed me that identity inside systems is never nature. It is assigned control." And she asked, "And what did you gain?" And after a long silence, he replied, "The understanding that truth doesn't survive inside controlled environmental systems. It survives only in the people who refuse to accept a version of themselves generated to protect the stability of engineered survival itself." And as he walked away alone into the freezing dawn beneath a world still silently controlled by invisible climate systems, he finally understood the deepest reality of his journey, that sometimes life doesn't destroy you directly. It quietly assigns you the collapse of Earth itself and waits to see if you accept the system's version of reality. But real survival begins the moment you refuse to become the identity a system creates to control even the future of the planet humanity calls home.